Hey, welcome back. Make sure to subscribe so YouTube doesn't keep holding me back. I've got big dreams. Okay, let's get into this. I'll be honest, I totally fell for it. Picture this. It's 2 a.m. I'm doom scrolling TikTok like a proper millennial disaster, and suddenly there's this girl mixing what looks like pond water with seeds, telling me it'll turn my brain into some kind of supercomputer. The hashtag that got me? Fibermaxxing. Look, I should have known better. I've been around long enough to watch keto become a religion, seen people lose their minds over bulletproof coffee, and witnessed the great collagen craze of 2019. But something about this felt different. Maybe it was the timing. I'd been dealing with that awful 3 p.m. brain fog that makes you feel like your head's stuffed with cotton. Or maybe I was just tired of feeling tired. Either way, within 24 hours I was deep in the fiber rabbit hole. Chia seed puddings that looked genuinely disturbing, psyllium husk drinks that resembled wet cement, comments sections full of people claiming they'd unlocked some kind of cognitive cheat code. It was like biohacking meets swamp cuisine, and apparently everyone was invited to the party. But here's where things get interesting. And this is what kept me hooked when I should have been running. Some of this stuff actually has real science behind it. Not the influencer science where someone in a lab coat holds up a supplement bottle, but actual peer-reviewed research that makes you go, maybe there's something here. Researchers at King's College London recently found that people over 60 who took a daily fiber supplement improved their brain function in just 12 weeks. We're talking better performance on memory tests that doctors use to spot early signs of Alzheimer's. That's not some random wellness blog making claims, that's Nature Communications, the kind of journal that doesn't mess around. The mechanism is actually pretty wild when you think about it. Your gut bacteria basically throw a party when you feed them fiber, fermenting it into these compounds called short-chain fatty acids. One of them, butyrate, can actually cross into your brain and influence how your neurons work. It's like having a secondary nervous system in your intestines that's constantly texting your brain about what's going on down there. I know how this sounds. Trust me, I've heard Joe Rogan talk about gut health enough times to recognize when something's getting the full podcast treatment. But the research on this gut-brain connection isn't some fringe theory anymore, it's becoming mainstream science. Your gut produces neurotransmitters like serotonin. The bacteria living in there can literally influence your mood and cognitive function. It's weird and fascinating and slightly unsettling all at once. So naturally, I decided to experiment on myself, because that's what we do now, right? Turn our bodies into personal laboratories and document everything for potential content. Very 2024 of me. I didn't go full TikTok extremist, I'm not completely insane. Instead, I committed to 30 days of seriously upping my fiber game. The official recommendation is 25-38 grams daily, and I was shooting for the high end. Beans with every meal, switching to the bread that looks like it has twigs in it, vegetables at breakfast because apparently that's a thing now. Week 1 was all optimism and smugness. I felt like I'd cracked some kind of code that everyone else was missing. Look at me, eating all this fiber like some kind of wellness warrior. The digestive adjustment was minimal, just enough to remind me that change was happening without making me regret my life choices. Week 2 is when things got actually interesting. I can't say I suddenly became Einstein or anything dramatic like that, but something was different. That afternoon energy crash that usually hit me like a truck started feeling more like a gentle speed bump. My focus felt more stable. It's hard to describe without sounding like I'm selling something, but there was definitely a shift. Of course, this is where you have to start questioning everything. Was it really the fiber? Or was it the fact that I was drinking more water, paying attention to what I ate, and basically treating my body like it mattered for the first time in months? The placebo effect is a real thing, and it's particularly sneaky when you're making lifestyle changes that require actual effort. Barry Gordon at Johns Hopkins basically called this out when he said, people who think nootropics are helping them are mostly experiencing placebo effects. If you're more confident and think you'll do better, you will do better. Ouch. But also, fair point. By week 3, the novelty had completely worn off. Meal prep became this whole production focused on fiber content. I was spending way too much mental energy thinking about food, which probably wasn't the cognitive enhancement I was looking for. The irony wasn't lost on me. Week 4 brought some real clarity though. Not the mystical kind that wellness influencers talk about, but actual perspective on what I'd learned. The benefits I'd noticed were real, but subtle. More importantly, they weren't necessarily about the fiber itself. They were about paying attention to how my body responded to different foods and making more intentional choices. Here's what really gets me about the whole fibermaxxing trend. It takes legitimate science and packages it like it's some revolutionary discovery. The research on fiber and brain health is genuinely interesting, but it's not new information. We've known for decades that gut health matters. The difference now is that we have better tools to understand the mechanisms and social media to turn everything into content. The problem with wellness culture, and I say this as someone who's clearly susceptible to it, is that it promises optimization as the solution to everything. Can't focus? There's a supplement for that. Feeling tired? Hack your sleep. Brain fog? Max out your fiber intake. It's appealing because it suggests simple solutions to complex problems. But most of us aren't dealing with severe fiber deficiency causing cognitive decline. We're dealing with stress, poor sleep, information overload, and the general chaos of modern life. A chia seed pudding isn't going to fix that, no matter how many TikTok testimonials say otherwise. The supplement industry loves trends like this because they can slap gut health or cognitive support on a bottle and charge premium prices for what's essentially fiber powder. Some of these products are loaded with fillers and artificial sweeteners that might actually work against the benefits you're trying to get. It's the classic wellness trap. Turn something simple and cheap into something complicated and expensive. Don't get me wrong, I'm not completely dismissing this. The King's College study was legit, using proper controls and twin subjects to account for genetic differences. Fiber does support gut health, which does influence brain function. The mechanisms are real, even if they're not as dramatic as social media makes them seem. What bothers me is the extremist approach. Fibermaxxing implies that more is always better, but that's not how biology works. Your gut microbiome thrives on diversity, not just quantity. Eating all your fiber from one source isn't optimal. Going from low fiber to extremely high fiber too quickly can cause digestive chaos. And individual responses vary wildly. What works for the girl on TikTok might make you feel terrible. The truth is way more nuanced and boring than the trend suggests. Yes, adequate fiber intake probably supports brain health through gut-brain connections, but adequate is the key word here, not maximal. Most Americans don't eat enough fiber anyway, so any increase is likely to be beneficial. But that's not as catchy as promising cognitive superpowers. I think about other trends that have followed this same pattern. Remember when everyone was obsessing over bulletproof coffee because Dave Asprey claimed it would turn you into a productivity machine? Or when collagen was supposed to be the fountain of youth? These things often have some legitimate research behind them, but the benefits get wildly overstated and oversimplified. The fibermaxxing phenomenon fits perfectly into what I call the optimization trap. We're constantly looking for the next thing that will make us perform better, think clearer, feel more energetic. It's the same impulse that drives people to expensive nootropic stacks and complicated biohacking protocols. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but it always promises to be the thing that finally fixes everything. Here's what I actually learned from my month of fiber obsession. The most valuable changes weren't about the fiber at all. They were about developing awareness of how my body responds to different foods, creating more intentional eating habits, and understanding that small, consistent changes can have meaningful impacts. The energy stability I noticed probably had as much to do with eating more whole foods and fewer processed snacks as it did with fiber specifically. The improved focus could have been better hydration, more mindful eating, or just the fact that I was paying attention to my health for the first time in months. That's the thing about wellness trends. They often work, but not necessarily for the reasons they claim. The act of committing to a new health practice, tracking changes, and being more mindful about your body can create benefits regardless of whether the specific intervention is doing what it's supposed to do. I'm not saying fibermaxxing is complete nonsense. Unlike some wellness trends that are genuinely harmful or expensive, eating more fiber is generally safe and probably beneficial for most people. The research on gut-brain connections is fascinating and evolving. If someone wants to experiment with increasing their fiber intake, there's probably more upside than downside. But let's be realistic about what we're dealing with here. This isn't a cognitive enhancement breakthrough. It's not going to turn you into Bradley Cooper in Limitless. It's a basic nutritional intervention that might support overall health in subtle ways, wrapped in social media packaging that makes it seem revolutionary. The real value in exploring something like fibermaxxing isn't in finding the perfect biohack, it's in learning to pay attention to your body, understanding how different inputs affect how you feel, and developing a more nuanced relationship with health and wellness. Those skills transfer to everything else and create lasting benefits that go way beyond any single trend. My honest takeaway after 30 days? I probably will keep eating more fiber than I used to, but not because I think it's going to unlock hidden brain powers. I'll do it because paying attention to my diet generally makes me feel better. And fiber-rich foods tend to be nutrient-dense and satisfying. It's boring and practical and not very Instagram-worthy, but it's sustainable. The cognitive benefits I noticed were real but modest, and likely came from multiple factors working together rather than fiber alone. The most important thing I gained was perspective on how wellness trends work, why they're appealing, and how to approach them with appropriate skepticism while staying open to genuine learning. Because here's the thing about health optimization. It's not about finding the perfect protocol or the ultimate supplement. It's about understanding yourself, staying consistent with basics that actually matter, and finding approaches that fit your life long-term. Sometimes that includes trendy things like Fibermaxxing, and sometimes it's just eating your vegetables and getting enough sleep. The gut-brain connection is real and worth understanding. Fiber does play a role in overall health, but the path to better cognitive function isn't through maximizing any single variable, it's through creating sustainable habits that support your whole system over time. That's not as exciting as promising brain superpowers from pond water smoothies, but it's honest, and in the long run it actually works.